Good morning, everybody. My name is Leonardo Scamazzo, and I'm a second-year MBA student and part of the organizing committee. I have the pleasure to introduce our second keynote speaker, Mr. Claudi Santiago, Managing Director and COO at First Reserve. Mr. Santiago joined First Reserve in 2012. He has responsibility for the management of the firm's operations. Prior to joining First Reserve, Mr. Santiago had over 30 years of experience with General Electric, most recently as President and CEO of GE Oil and Gas, a 15 billion revenue oilfield services business that now includes Dresser, a former portfolio company of First Reserve. Mr. Santiago holds a master's degree from the Universidad Autónoma of Barcelona, and he has completed postgraduate studies at INSEAD in Fontainebleau and Georgetown University. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Santiago here at the Global Energy Summit.
Good morning. Thank you, Leonardo, for this introduction. My speech today here is try to convince you that in the oil and gas industry there are significant pieces of technology, and we do not get the credit for the innovation that is going on in this industry around the world. We collectively, we have to convince the society that this is an industry that has more people than just those that sometimes get in the television with grease in the fingerprints. There is a lot of innovation, there is a lot of technology advantages that are clearly revolutionizing the world. So what I am going to do here is to try to frame a little bit this debate, show you a view about how this innovation is impacting the industry and what that means for all of us. Not going to spend a second on my CV. That Leonardo did a great job, much better that I will do. So let's move 1 second about First Reserve. We are a private equity firm that invests in energy. I like to say that we are special for 3 things. 1, because our domain knowledge and expertise. We only invest in energy. This is the only thing that we do. The second characteristic of the firm, very, very quickly, is that we have a global footprint, so allow us to find opportunities to invest all over around the world. And as a result of this, and 30 years of experience, we have made more than 400 acquisitions that have delivered nice return for our shareholders and our investors. So very, very quickly setting the frame about what is going on in the industry and how technology and innovation is changing it. Let's start a little bit about what is going on around the world. And for people like you that are studying economy, this is probably all news. I will say that the world is still struggling in recovering. The famous theory that there are 2-speed kind of recoveries, what is going on in the developed markets and what is going on in the developing markets. This is being challenged right now. The economy, however, seems to get a little bit healthier after the economic crisis in 2008, but there is still a long way to go. Despite that, there is a true fact, and it is that the world will continue to need more oil and more gas to prosper. Nobody can question that. Somebody will say it's 20 million barrels per day incremental. Somebody else will be 25. Your guess is good as mine, but there is no question that by 2020, the world is going to consume more oil and more gas. This is even just forecasting a very, very mild growth of the economy all in around the world. So let's just start with a first fact. The world will need more energy, and in particular more oil and more gas to continue to prosper and to continue to create wealth and develop these economies that are emerging for very, very low baselines. We do not talk enough about this. So one thing is that the world is going to need more oil and more gas. The second fact, it is that the existing reservoirs are depleting faster than ever before. We are producing more oil and more gas for the existing reservoirs faster than ever before. Technology is part of that. So what is going on? It is that if you just plot a very moderate economic growth and you plot the existing depletion of the reservoirs, and I am talking here about oil, by 2020, we need to bring online about 50 million barrels of oil incremental that we are producing today. 50 million barrels. Just to put this in perspective, this is 5 times what Saudi Arabia is producing today. We are running out of time. 2020 is not too far away. You do the same thing on gas, and you assume very little GDP growth, so very marginal incremental demand, basically all coming from the developing countries, China, India, Asia, some parts of Africa, and you plot at what speed the existing reservoirs of gas are depleting today, you do the same math, and by 2020, we collectively, we need to bring about 4 to 5 times what Russia is producing today. That is the challenge that we have in front of us. So somebody will say, Jesus, this is going to be tough. But don't worry, it's not that we are going to die all frozen after a cold winter. This is not going to happen. And I will try to articulate that, why I believe that this is not going to happen. Another dimension, it is that the existing new reservoirs that are available, it is not that we are running out of oil. And it is not right that we are running out of gas. What it is true, however, it is that we are running away from easy oil and easy gas. The new reservoirs are more and more in more difficult places to find and more difficult places to extract. Call it deep water, call it shale gas, call it oil sands. All these different areas require more investments, require additional complexity, more capital to really be monetized. So, economy not growing very rapidly, but the world will need more oil and more gas. Existing reservoirs depleting faster than ever before, and the new reserves being located in more difficult places. There is hope. There is hope. And the hope is based on the amount of technology and innovation that the industry is proven itself applying to all these different challenges. Think about this. Just 10 years ago, the majority of these existing reservoirs that we are going to talk in a second were inaccessible in the industry. And it is thanks to the good work of a lot of people, certainly the major players in the industry, the academia, the government, that all together we put our minds to work and we were able to develop new technologies that allow us to really bring online these additional reserves that are going to propel the prosperity of the world in the years to come. So let's talk for a second about the United States, a country that literally 4 or 5 years ago was thinking about importing gas for a long, long time, building import LNG terminals, liquefied natural gas that should come from other parts of the world, from Trinidad, Tobago, it has to come from the Middle East. This is a country that in 5 years has positioned itself from being a net importer of hydrocarbons to a potential huge exporter of hydrocarbons. Not only that, the price of energy in the country is allowing now many of the jobs, industrial jobs, that were exported into China, India, the so-called low-cost countries, being re-imported into the United States. A sort of a new industrial revolution driven by the price of energy, driven by the innovation that has happened over the last 10 years, in particular 5 years in the industry. A transformational thing that was unthinkable just literally a few years ago. When you look at that chart and you look the years, you see here that the oil production in the US was declining. This is the result of tired reservoirs in the Gulf of Mexico, the depletion that we were talking 5 minutes ago, but with the result of new techniques, with the result of this innovation, we are now in a situation where oil is being produced in excess of what is being consumed, and to compensate for the depletion of the existing reservoirs. And once again, the United States is becoming a net producer of incremental oil year over year. You see the same with gas, and look the impact of the shale gas revolution in the US. Again, a country that was predicting that was about to need import gas for many, many generations to come, and was preparing an infrastructure to really absorb this gas coming from overseas. Now is converting the same infrastructure as a result of this to potentially export gas at much lower prices than other gas producers around the world. Truly transformational for an economy that was so depending on energy prices. And that is also allowing to really become competitive in many, many different industries where before the jobs were exported into other parts of the world. You look at deep water, and again, what technology has been able to do in allowing reserves that were untouchable a few years ago to become producible right now. You talk about west of Africa, you talk about Brazil, you talk about Australia deep water, huge reservoirs of hydrocarbon that were not touchable, were not producible, were not cost competitive years ago, and as a result of technology and innovation that has happened in the industry are now available for people to monetize. So again, all the result of what is going on in the industry. More to come, and I think that Philip was talking a little bit about this. We are not yet there, but we are going to go into new frontiers to try to access new hydrocarbon reserves that will continue to propel the economies of the developing countries. Arctic resources We need to do that carefully for millions of reasons. We need to do that in a way that we are going to protect the environment, but we will get there. This is an industry that has proven that when it sets a challenge and we join forces, we can accomplish things that were impossible just years before. The oil sands, lowering the production costs of these massive reserves in Canada, in other countries like Venezuela, another opportunity, and monetizing more, producing more from the existing reservoirs. When you think that in a deep water reservoir, we produce about 1/3 of the hydrocarbons that are theoretically available to us before we need to move to the new reservoir. Can you imagine the moment that instead of producing 1/3 of these hydrocarbons, we can produce 50% of 60%? Enhancing the recovery ratio of these existing reservoirs through new technologies, through new innovation, will be another paradigm shift that is going to happen in the industry in the years to come. So just starting to sum up, you look at all these challenges, but for each of the challenges, we have had a sort of response. Deep water applications, going deeper and deeper in a safe, secure, reliable way. This will continue. Unconventional resources that used to be unconventional are becoming more and more conventional, and that will continue with oil sands, for example. Applications of technology, new innovation that is going to come from other industries, from the aerospace industry, from the medical industry. If we can monitor how an aircraft engine is performing when it is flying an aeroplane, why we cannot do the same with a blow-up preventer that is working at 2,000 meters below the sea level? What's different? The sensors, the remote monitoring and diagnostic software, all these exist in another industry. Just need to bring it back into oil and gas. If we can do X-rays in a safe way of human bodies, why we cannot do an X-ray of a casing or a pipeline to avoid any potential leak? These all exist. It has to be adapted. It's going to come. The world will not stop. And this extra innovation will continue to make this industry more productive and allow for technology that is going to monetize new reserves. And evolving landscapes. I am not here smart enough to tell you what is going to happen with shale gas in many countries around the world. I don't know. Time will tell. But what I do know is that these reserves are there. And sooner or later, the industry is going to figure out how to access it in a reliable way, in a safe way, to make these economies from the countries that enjoy this reserve more productive, more competitive, and create new opportunities for jobs. So just to summarize, this is an industry that I don't think gets credit for the role of technology. You talk with people in the telecom industry, people in the semiconductor industry, and the only thing that they talk day in and day out is about technology. Well, think about what has happened here in the last 10 years. Are we getting credit from the society about this? Should do a better job in explaining that this is not an industry, again, with people with grays in their fingerprints. That there is a huge amount of research, there is a huge amount of technology being applied every day, that these are transformational things that are happening for society, that are making economies more competitive, creating new opportunities for jobs, and new dislocations in the world economy. I think that there is a long way to go. And when we read often in the reports from the newspapers, we often are criticized or looking at the dark sides of the industry and never get the credit that I think we deserve. So I hope that that was a little bit of a stimulating thought, and I think that there is some time for questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your interesting speech, Mr. Santiago. We have time for a few questions. So,
my name is Philip Veery. I work for Bloomberg New Energy Finance. Thank you very much for your presentation. I just have two questions. One, does your group, First Reserve, are you concerned with the rising environmental cost of extracting and burning hydrocarbons? And then the second question, how do you see the growth of clean technologies? Do you see it as a threat, an opportunity, or just a bit of a pain in the neck?
Two interesting questions. The first, I will say, there is a lot of potential repair that we can do in the industry to make it more environmentally friendly. You go to many different places around the world and you see huge amounts of hydrocarbons being burned, flaring, and obviously not helping with the environmental concerns that we all have. So, in many cases, this technology is available. In many cases, there is not a good reason why we keep burning so much oil or so much gas that could be monetized. I think that the governments and, especially in developing countries, are becoming more and more sensitive to this issue. And this is going to happen for the well-being of the country and the well-being of the society in general. In terms of environmental concerns applied to new technologies, are we concerned? We are concerned as you are. We are all human beings. We want to leave a country for our children that is safe. It's something that we keep in mind all the time. What I will say it is that this is an industry that tends to raise to these kind of challenges and make it work. That doesn't mean that we have yet the answers to all the questions, but I am absolutely convinced personally that what we are doing, it is always as safe as it can be in many other industries, and that the passion for this innovation that has developed over the last few years will continue to help us on that direction. Regarding green technologies, no, we don't believe that they are a penny in the egg as a firm. These are good examples for us to find out opportunities to invest, and we have sponsored many different opportunities on renewables and so-called unconventional and green energy applications. So we are an energy investor that invests across the value chain, including renewables, for example, and anything that can have an impact in the industry.
Thank you. My name is Stuart Mills. I'm an alumni and work for Wood Mackenzie. In the previous talk, we talked about in Germany sort of a move for renewables and then the rise of coal again in its importance as a dynamic that's back to base and back to some of the traditional sort of industries. Do you see any investment opportunities in looking back at the base outside the frontiers that are exciting, but the traditional frontiers that are trying to make the most of the energies that we have today?
From coal, looking opportunities from coal, from renewables in particular?
Yeah, focus on coal and then, because the same issue is in obviously China.
Yeah. Well, the way that we see coal, it is not very attractive, to be mild. And the thesis is very simple. Coal is not an environmentally friendly source of energy. You look at the price of gas, especially in the United States. So with gas prices being as low as they are, there is a huge opportunity back to the environmental question to really improve, and in the United States this transition is happening, to really improve the environmental concerns by moving from coal-fired plants to gas-led fire plants. This is happening. And again, it's part of this revolution that is going on as a result of the innovation and that has happened over the last few years. So regarding investing in coal, we are not very excited about it. And we believe that in other countries, China in particular has to follow a little bit this transition. Their price of gas is not the same that it is in the United States, but this transformation, this evolution is going to happen in other places around the world. Regarding the role of the renewables, we believe that the world will need all sorts of energy, including nuclear. So, and maybe this is going to be a little bit controversial, but we believe that, again, to satisfy the needs for energy that all these emerging economies are going to generate, the sources are going to be hydrocarbons, nuclear, renewables that are going to become also more cost competitive, less subsidized, and hopefully more productive. So it's going to be a combination of these different sources of energy that are going to support the prosperity of the world. But for our generation, we are still convinced that hydrocarbons, in particular oil and gas, are going to be the major sources. And therefore, all these kind of new applications that we have been talking this morning are going to be very, very important to support the growing economies and the developing economies of the world. Yes?
It's Michael Salmon. I'm an alumnus from the school, and I used to work for Exxon and Shell. You've talked a lot about technologies, and I'd like you to share your thoughts on the ownership of those technologies. So, for example, you picked out enhanced recovery. Do you see the technologies for enhanced recovery being owned by the oil field services companies, the multinationals, the national oil companies? And do you see the model of how businesses use that technology changing, becoming more collaborative, or do you still see it being centered within being proprietary owned technology?
If I had the crystal ball, probably I should not work as hard as I am working and have all the answers to a clear answer to all these questions. Great question. When you look what happened in the industry, let's just start a little bit from a piece of history. It is true that the major oil and gas companies, they went to this model of outsourcing a lot of these technologies to the oilfield services suppliers. I don't know if this is right or wrong. It is a fact. It happened. And that was a process that probably lasted for 15, 20 years. And many companies in oilfield services pick that ball, pick that responsibility, and keep innovating and keep developing. And an industry was created out of this. An industry was created out of this. I think that the challenges that we are talking about and what is happening now, it is not that the oil companies are outsourcing or insourcing. It takes everybody's domain knowledge and expertise, all the stakeholders in the industry, including academia, by the way, to really respond to these challenges. I don't think that there is one stakeholder in the industry that can do it all by itself. My view, and I am not trying to be politically correct, my view it is that is going to take oil field services resources, major oil and gas investment coming from the majors, the companies that you work for example, the national oil companies, they want to also own a piece, become smarter, be more self-sufficient, and it's going to take all these different stakeholders, academia, and this ability, in my view, the next step of innovation in the industry is going to come from other industries. We are going to be able to discover that we don't need to invent it. It was invented somewhere else. That's fine. Let's adapt it into the oil and gas. I was talking about the aerospace industry. I was talking about the medical industry as examples. I can talk about the manufacturing industry. What is going on now in shale gas, you need a lot of the manufacturing rigor, the manufacturing discipline, the Six Sigma mindset to make this production work and be cost effective. So all this which is available to the industry is going to come from other industry, and is going to be a joint effort between the major players, academia, and the oilfield services companies to make it work. That is my view. I think that, just to answer a little bit more in detail your question, I think that there is an effort right now by the major oil companies to re-source again a piece of the technologies that were outsourced years ago, and that's fine. The industry goes through these cycles, and I don't think that there is a better model. That is going to require everybody to play ball to make it happen.
Thank you so much for your talk, Mr. Santiago. My name is Akul Dayal. I'm doing an MBA at the University of Oxford. My question was, as an investor in oil and gas, how concerned are you regarding the possibility of the standardization of assets in the future, considering that there's a huge amount of investments going on in technology and extraction technologies for deep sea oil drilling? So that's my question about standardization, because it's already happening in the coal industry.
Yeah, I think it's going to happen. I think that standardization, replicability are good sources for lower costs, is a good prognosis of lower costs. I think that this is going to happen, and this is going to be a good thing, in my view, because it will continue to lower the cost of production of some of these untapped resources. I think that all this idea of industrializing more and more the industry. And again, replicating things and standardization is a good prognosis for replicating projects, ideas, pieces of technology. Is going to help the industry to be more cost effective, more safe, because when you replicate, you know, when you have done the same thing 10 times, the unit number 10, it costs a little bit less than the unit number 9, and it costs the unit number 9 a little bit less than the unit number 8. So this is going to be a good thing. What we need to learn in the industry, and you know, that was something that we are getting better, is that nobody wants to be the number one. Everybody wants the new piece of technology, but it has to be somebody else that is going to test it first. And that doesn't work. I mean, we need, you know, I want this piece of innovation, but let somebody to try it before I do. And again, this idea that we were talking before in my previous question of getting all the stakeholders together to really work better, I keep insisting, including the academia as a stakeholder in the industry, is going to help us also to really make sure that unit number 1 is safe, is secure, it has to be tested, and then if we can standardize it, we will continue to lower the cost and make the industry more productive and more cost effective.
Thank you very much. So please again join me in thanking Mr. Santiago for his contribution.